So one of the most interesting things to me is that other teachers come up with ways to use the books in their classrooms that fit with their students and what their students need. We have a teacher who loves to act out the chapters. So she actually acts out the chapters for her students, and then she gets her students up acting out the chapters after they've read them. And it's fun, and a lot of times it's hilarious to see what's going on in those classrooms.
Yeah, yeah. I think that when I am doing the book club, I much more stick to reading the book and then holding the book club using these strategies. So I already have taught the strategies, or it depends on the level, because if I'm working with the more beginner or low intermediates, I might just decide that I want to focus on 2 of the strategies out of the 6. And so maybe we're working on text to self and predictions, say. And so I focus on that, make sure that they understand those comprehension strategies, and then they read the book, or the chapter. It's usually a chapter, and then we get into book clubs, and we try to give them the sentence stems, like this reminds me of. So if I were going to say, this part of the story reminds me of how I felt when, so it could be touching on an emotion, or it could be, that really reminds me, when he wasn't there, that really reminds me of my neighbor, and the same thing happened to her. So it could be like an action. So I focus on those 2 kinds of things, and it works, of course, with beginners or low students. You can't expect the conversation's going to go for 10 minutes or something. It's a 3 or 4 minute conversation, and it might just be that one person says something, makes their connection, and then another person makes their connection. So when we realized that was going on, we really focused on the follow-up and how to have a conversation. So I think that's a pretty big part of
Well, I
it
think
too.
you make a really good point. A teacher's expectations has to be set to the student's level of English. So book club for a high intermediate class looks really different from book club in a low beginner class.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the teacher just has to expect, that that's going to be different.
And one thing that we did pretty early on, I think it's certainly the same, it's with all 4 of our books so far, is that we have a modified version. So the book is 10 chapters, about 10 pages per chapter, and the modified version is about 2 pages, or 2 or 3 pages, and actually that's available on the University of Michigan Press website, so you can get that and so it's the same story. It's just that, of course, the book is better because it's more detailed, but the students you can have somebody who's able to read the book in the same book club group as someone who isn't able to read the whole book but could manage the modified version.
So for our multi-level classes, it works very, very well because the students can be reading the same story at a different level and talking about the same story, and we don't have to, level our groups by only beginners in this group and only intermediate students in that group.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a really great way to build community. Our class is such a microcosm because we have people from all over the world in our classes, and it's so great because it helps break down the stereotypes. We had Koreans and Japanese, and traditionally haven't always gotten along very well, maybe in their own cultures, but here, when they see that they both lived through an earthquake or a typhoon or something or other, and or they both have some of the same kinds of problems as the characters in our books do, it's a really great bonding, community building
I think that
situation.
speaks to sort of the universality of the stories, even though we focus on one culture in each book, and they're all immigrants to the United States, and they're all in an English class. The story touches every single one of them, no matter what their culture is, and I think that's what brings them together.
And I think that actually it's pretty fun. I've gotten this idea from other teachers too, that it's pretty fun if they read the first one, Flor's Journey to Independence, and then they read the second one of Senem's journey, that some of the same characters are in them, although they are standalone books.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's kind of fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.